For those of us who are reading through the Bible this year with Nikki and Pippa Gumble, this is a significant day because today's the final day in the book of Genesis. We finished reading Genesis in chapters 49 and 50, and I'm going to read our verse for the day, which comes from Genesis 50, verse 20. This is really the climax of the book of Genesis. Joseph in Egypt reunited with his brothers and his father, and Joseph says to them, "Even though you intended to do harm to me, God intended it for good, in order to preserve a numerous people as he is doing today." And he goes on to say, "So have no fear, I myself will provide for you and your little ones." In this way he reassured them, speaking kindly to them. If you have been reading with us daily and have read through the book of Genesis, I know that a number of you and a number of us, myself included, reading Genesis raises a lot of questions. One of the questions it raises, as someone was sharing with me just yesterday, is why in the world did God choose this group of people, starting with Adam and Eve, and geez, their one son killed the other son, and every family there's lying and deceit. Abraham saying not once but twice that Sarah was his sister and not his wife, and putting her in harm's way to try to save his own skin. And then you have Rebecca siding with Jacob, and favoritism of parents towards children, and lying and deceiving kids, deceiving their parents, and then the whole story of Jacob and Laban deceiving Jacob, and Jacob and Rachel deceiving Laban, and on it goes throughout the book of Genesis. And it's like, why would God choose this particular family? And maybe it's to show that God can work through very flawed, sinful human beings to accomplish God's purposes. Because that seems to be the case throughout Genesis, and certainly in the wonderful Joseph narrative, the story of Jacob's favorite son, Joseph, and his brothers. And even though, here again, the brothers tried to kill Joseph and then sold him into slavery, and that God kept working through everything that happened. And so here at the climax of the book, you have Joseph having risen to great power and prominence, which then enables him to provide abundantly and safely for his family. You have him saying, with the benefit of hindsight, you intended to do me harm, but God intended it for good. That God was working providentially through all the circumstances, even the lies, the deceitfulness, the unfaithfulness. God worked through it all to preserve a numerous people. And perhaps when we turn to the book of Exodus, after having read Genesis, we'll understand in a new way why God needed to give the 10 Commandments to try to get people to live on the straight and narrow as God desires.